because we're going to have some great speakers. But good morning, everyone, and welcome to our continuing conversation from the Capital City Area Black Caucus on the types of issues and concerns that are important to not only the African American community in Trenton. Don't want to belabor the conversation because, as you know, I usually go into my Reverend Bailey mode, but Reverend Taylor is on the conversation, so I'm going to minimize myself and just be John, the moderator, and give Sam a couple of minutes real quick to just deal with his introduction, and then hear from the Honorable Paula Salami Covello on the election debrief. Sam, you want to do a quick welcome and let us move?
Good morning to everyone, and welcome, General. I see you on here. It's good to see you once again. This is the Capital City Area Black Caucus Forum, and for those who don't know, we created this forum about 4 years ago, actually 5 years ago, to ensure that people in the community, Black people in the community, had access to legislators, people that make decisions over our lives, and that it wasn't just during election time. So after the election now is completed, our governor is back in Mercer County. All of our elected officials are back, and we are now ready to get to work. So, General, we're glad to have you on here. I'm glad to see all of the community folks that are beginning to pop in, and my wonderful Assemblywoman, Verlena Reynolds Jackson, see you on here. So we want to get started. We're looking forward to hearing from you, recognizing all that has gone on over the last 24 hours with the decision of Rittenhouse. We recognize that we have a long way to go in this nation. And New Jersey has been fighting a good fight, but we still have a long way to go. And so it's incumbent upon all of us that are elected and those of us who are appointed to do the work that we continue to fight and battle for people of color in this state. So thank you so much, JB. Looking forward to hearing from the General.
All right, and thank you, Sam. We'd be remiss if we didn't just acknowledge that you were also reelected and are back in a position to continue to work on behalf of not only citizens in Trenton, but throughout Mercer County as the current chair of the Mercer County Commission. I'm not sure if they're having an election anytime soon, but we need you, and we're glad that you're there. You know, part of elections is not just everything that leads up to the election or what happens on election day. Thoughtful political operatives, and I'll claim myself as in that category, want to know what happened, want to know what the numbers mean, want to know as we go about planning for, in this case, midterm election, what is it that we can garner from the information in a deep dive that will allow us to then know what adjustments that need to be made, what preparations that need to be made, what thoughtful and innovative and creative ideas can be brought to the table that can be meaningful and can be proactive and can be almost the type of thoughtfulness that allows us to recognize, in many cases, why most of us are Democrats. And so with that, even though what happens next year in some cases may be nonpartisan, or the next year may be nonpartisan, we're going to be somewhat partisan today, and I'm not going to apologize for it, but I'm just going to acknowledge the fact that we have some very good Democrats in our county who are doing unbelievable work. And one of those people is our county clerk, Paula Salami Covello, who is going to take a few minutes and share a little bit from a debrief perspective. And then we're going to ask Sam and a few others to give their perspective on what happened in the last election. So would y'all please welcome to the Hollywood Square, Janine LaRue Zoom room, the Honorable Paula S. Covello.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. It's good to see you all. And we survived this election, so that was a good thing. I want to, I am Paula Salami Covello, the county clerk. I want to first congratulate Sam Frisbee on his reelection as freeholder and Verlena Reynolds Jackson as her reelection as Assemblywoman, who were both on this call, and everyone else who won this year. It was a really exciting year. And I think I'll start off with the fact that, we just certified the election yesterday. And we were not the only county to do so. That is because of the change in the law that allowed for early voting this year. And many counties, all counties had to purchase electronic poll books. It changed the way we ran elections in New Jersey. It also meant that there was a lot more paper One of the reasons for that is we bought new voting machines in Mercer County where we had pre-printed paper ballots for everybody to vote on election day and for vote by mail. So everything was paper. And it, of course, required us to vote every piece of paper and scan every piece of paper and audit that. So that took longer. And today, the New Jersey Star Ledger, and it's also in the Times, has called for the counties to start voting before the election day, because right now New Jersey law allows us to only start counting at 12:01 a.m. on election day. So that delays the vote by mail count. And if you went to bed on election night watching just the machine count, it was pretty scary. We had Hamilton, I'm talking as a Democrat right now, not as county clerk. So let me go back. It was scary for Democrats because the Hamilton candidates were ahead and some of the assembly people in our county were losing. But when we woke up the next morning, we started putting the vote by mail numbers in, you start to see a big change because 11% of our voters voted by mail. That really makes a big difference now. And and so when you don't have those numbers on election night, things change because Democrats vote by mail and Republicans tend not to. So I wanted to say that we had a historically low turnout statewide. I'm just going to read through some of the observations I made, but I will tell you that since I just got these numbers last night, I only have a few things, I've been able to gather. We had a historically low turnout statewide. Part of that was because there were so many new voters registered because we had a change in the registration law. People now have to opt out of registration instead of opting in, so they don't even know they're registered. So, a lot of people don't even know they can vote. So there are a lot more people registered, but that doesn't mean they're voting. We also had the impact of COVID-19. A lot of people are still concerned about going to the polls. And we also have we had a brand new system thanks to the county commissioners, County Commissioner Frisbee and others. We bought new voting machines. And that had some intimidation factor with some of our poll workers. So there was a little bit of that factor as well. We also saw the Republican Party nationally was motivated. And that explains some of the Hamilton results this year. They were very motivated to come out and vote, and especially in the 14th legislative district. But the good news for Mercer is Mercer was the third best performing county in New Jersey for the governor, behind Hudson and Essex. And if you watch, we were on national news. They were waiting for our vote by mail numbers to come in for Governor Murphy. It made a difference in his race. So Mercer County was pretty true and Democratic in the end. And that was good news. Trenton, Ewing, and Princeton really make a difference for Mercer County Democrats. That's pretty clear from the numbers. And even though Trenton did have a low turnout, Trenton really had a low turnout, but they're solid, committed Democratic votes every time. So you can't take them for granted. They don't switch. And that's really important. The vote by mail system proved to be the most important change as it's where Democrats are winning. And as I said, early voting, we did not have a high turnout yet. But I think that's tied to the fact that people don't really even know about it, despite the fact that we advertised and we spoke about it endlessly. We only had, I think it was 2.1% turnout for early voting, 8,000 votes. But, and while I have a legislator here, I want to just mention, I think that it would be good if we could maybe tweak that a little bit. Like we saw that Halloween was not a great day for voting. Maybe they cut back on those hours. When longer days, but maybe less days. So, we'll have to talk about cleanup. And I know I actually saw Assemblyman Zwicker, who's now a senator-elect from Princeton. He's a Democrat, and that was the first time we ever won that Senate seat as Democrats. And so he said he's going to put in a cleanup bill to work on some of the problems that we did see with the new early voting law and fix it. And he's working on that. So that was good to hear. And his race, I will say, Princeton made a huge difference for him. He won because of Princeton. And that, so Mercer County, again, made an important contribution. And lastly, I just think that, while early voting needs some tweaking, it was a good thing and we're off to a good start. So those are my observations. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you this morning. And it's just good to see everybody and see everybody's alive after this election and we're moving forward. And I look forward to working with everyone. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Paula. So Sam, you being one of the candidates, what's your thoughts about the election? Y'all do column stuff rather than, sort of like a free wheel and open ballot. Y'all have a a Republican sort of running the election activity here to a certain degree, and Anthony Conte. Does that impact turnout? Does that impact organization? Does that impact poll workers? Does it impact training? Does it impact communication? Because if we're talking about tweaking things, to me, all those things should be a part of the tweak in terms of a recognition of how we continue to hold on to this democratic fortress here. Because I think Paul is absolutely right. The 10,000 votes theoretically that came out of Trenton went one of the big ways towards the 50, 60,000 votes that you got countywide. Any thoughts there?
Yeah, so JB, I think that all of those things play a part, right? The fact that we've got in our Board of Elections, and I don't want to say Republicans kind of watching the in-house, but they are pretty much in charge right now. We need to make sure that we are holding them accountable at all times. They try to do some good work, but one of the things that we saw on Election Day was we had some Democratic polling places that weren't open on time, right? Now, I'm not saying that that was planned, but it definitely wasn't a priority when it came to let's get it fixed and get it fixed quickly. We need to make sure that we are doing more in places like the city of Trenton. Look, there's no reason. We have one of the highest drop-offs. I think we have the highest drop-off in the state when it comes to the presidential election to the gubernatorial election. Almost every year, it's about 25 to 29,000 people that vote for the presidential election. And the last time that Governor Murphy was elected, I think there were 11,000 votes. And then this time there were 10,000 votes. That's a very high drop-off. And that's Democratic numbers. And so the plurality in Trenton is the highest plurality in our county. So we need to make sure that we're spending more time here, a little bit more money, and run it like a business, right? And when business people see that something is not going properly, they dissect it and they try and figure out, okay, where are the impediments? Now, part of the impediment for us is the national climate, right? So the national climate, when we saw what happened in the Rittenhouse case, you see that whole area of apathy where Black folks kind of say, well, it almost doesn't matter what I do, I'm still not going to get a fair shake. That bleeds over into election things. So we need to make sure that we're paying attention to all that, but we've got to be able to get down to the grassroots level. And the reality is that until Black people feel like that they're getting something out of electing people, they're not going to come out. And so we need to make sure that they're feeling it when it comes to jobs, that they're feeling it when it comes to business assistance, that they're feeling it when it comes to their educational systems that are being supported. And so those all play a part, and it's part of the confluence of the dynamic.
Okay. We're going to continue on with that discussion, but we'll change it. First of all, Paula, thank you. You have set the tone for the conversation today, but you've also set the tone for thoughtful political operatives in Mercer County and in Trenton, looking at the whole concept of how not only can we be better, but how we can do better to elect candidates that have our best interests in mind. And so thank you so much for the tireless work you do on behalf of all of us in the county. So thank you.
Thank you so much, John. I just wanted to say one thing about the line, because I really, if you don't mind, because I do draw the ballots and lay them out. And I wanted to say that there is a movement to abolish the line, the Democrat line, the Republican line throughout the county, but throughout the state. And I'm being sued as one of county clerks that used it, because there were 3 county clerks that used it and it impacted the race for the 14th legislative district 2 years ago. But we follow our party bylaws and we follow the laws of Title 19. So until the governor and this party wants to abolish that style of line, then we're going to have to keep it. And I mean, it has benefits and it has, negatives. The benefits are, if you're in a party line, people above you and below you who might be like the governor is going to be right above you, and that's going to help draw people to your line and they'll vote for you versus a standalone. The takeaway, the negative to it is that if you're sitting alone in a square and it's just you against your opponents, then you don't have that coattail effect. But the positives are that it's more fair. I mean, in some ways, and that's what the progressive parties arguing. It's more fair for you not to be impacted by other races, and you stand alone and you stand on your own strength. So, there's positives to both, and I'll follow as clerk whatever the party decides in terms of bylaws and whatever they want to do. But that's where we are right now. So I just wanted to say that about it, because it's something that I'm very involved in right now as a defendant. And we'll see what the court decides too, because our lawyer, mine and the other two counties, it's Monmouth and Ocean, who are Republicans, we're all being sued for the line. Lawyers are arguing that it's a constitutional freedom, that you have a right to associate with who you want to under the Constitution, and that's why you should be able to be in the line. So that's just wanted to mention that, and I appreciate you giving me the time to do it, and thank you so much.
No problem. We're talking about laws, and we're talking about legal issues, and every state has a top lawyer who, in some cases, is cross-pollinated because he's also the top law enforcement official. And so in New Jersey, you have such a person. And I've asked, I didn't ask. Janine LaRue instructed me that in our next meeting, we needed to have our top cop, our top law enforcement official, our top lawyer to come before us because he's a good man. And so I've asked Janine, then she would take the honor of introducing the Honorable Andrew Brooke, who is the acting Attorney General in New Jersey, but a good man.
JB, thank you so very, very much. And I am always excited about coming out once a month to our caucus meetings. Can't wait until we start seeing each other in person. I would imagine that's going to be coming very soon. Today, we have a guy who in many ways is one of us. He inherited the job of being the top lawyer, appointed by Governor Murphy just this year as the acting Attorney General. Some of you may remember at the U.S. Attorney level, there's a woman, Sally Yates, who many of us look at her as a hero. The way she stood up to the Trump administration and was determined that she was going to tell the truth and stand up for Americans in our democracy. Well, our AG actually worked for her. He's a graduate of Princeton University, a little small school in our county that we tend to love, and also Stanford Law School. It's very, very interesting education, but that's not what makes him who he is. This acting AG, when I first met him, and I've had an opportunity to engage with him a lot, our magnificent Pastor John Taylor and Pastor Charles Boyer, they interact with him on a regular. I noticed something different about him. And one of the things that I learned is that he is a member of a community that I'm a member of, the LGBT. He actually rules with a different face of what he believes government should do. He and his husband also live in the city of Trenton, and they are raising a wonderful daughter, Libby. So without further ado, he's already, just in the short time he's been in this office as the acting AG, he's already done some amazing things as it relates to juvenile justice. His three priorities are racial justice, gun violence, and policing policy. And before, AG, you come on, I just wanted to raise her hand, because behind every major principal, AG, governor, the county clerk, all of them, there's somebody behind them who actually makes his or her job a lot better. And for this acting AG, it's Bryn Whittle. Please raise your hand, Bryn. She is a part of our community, and she is determined that people who look like us are appropriately represented in the office of Attorney General. General, take it away.
Well, before he goes, let me just say something that all Tigers say when they see each other, and that is 3 cheers to Old Nassau.
Oh, thank you. And thank you, Janine, for that just incredibly kind introduction. It's great looking out on this Zoom screen and seeing a bunch of friends and folks who I've worked with over the past 3 years, and in particular over the last few months. Pastor Taylor and Brother Gene. We've worked together on the Four Seas in Trenton. I feel so grateful for that, the opportunity to get to know Janine, to do events with Sam and Assemblywoman Reynolds Jackson. There's just so many great people here in the Mercer area, and it's just a pleasure to be on with everyone. So I figured that I would, it's a tough time right now, right? I think with the verdict yesterday is a reminder of, even as we make progress, even as we push through thoughtful reforms, we still have a system where that is stacked against people of color, and where too often justice is not done. And there is, I think, immense frustration in New Jersey and across the country. And I wanted to use this opportunity to talk a little bit about what we're doing in our office to try to bring justice to every community in our state. I'd be remiss if I didn't first acknowledge Bryn before we got started. One of the very first things that I did when I became the acting attorney general was to promote Bryn, to make her both the director of community engagement, but just as importantly, was to also make her a senior counsel in the office, to recognize her background and experience as a lawyer and as someone who really has a lot to contribute, not just on the community side, but also on the policy development side. And I think it's so important that we have diverse voices present when we're actually making policy and actually making important decisions. And I'm so grateful for everything that Bryn has done over the last. As Janine said, I was appointed to serve out the remaining 6 months of the first term of Governor Murphy's tenure. I came in when my predecessor, A.G. Graywall, left to go join the federal government. And so when I was appointed, I knew that I was going to be in for the next 6 months. We have no idea what's going to happen after that, but I knew that I had 181 days, not that I'm counting, to try to do as much as I could. And I'm a big believer that if everything is a priority, nothing is a priority. And that if you want to make progress, if you want to make a difference, you pick a couple of things and you try to do them really, really well. So when I found out that I was going to be moving into this position, I took some time to think about issues that mattered to me personally, that I cared a lot about, where I wanted to try to make a difference during the 6 months that I knew that I had. And so for me, they're exactly what Janine said: gun violence, policing policy, and racial justice. And I'll talk a little bit about each of those, and then we can have a conversation. So on gun violence, I believe that New Jersey is one of the best places in the country to raise a family, but you don't get to fully appreciate the benefits of living in this state if you are afraid to sit on your front porch after dinner, if you are afraid to let your kids go down to the basketball court or the playing field in the evening, concerned that you're going to get a call from an officer saying that they've been shot. And the reality is that there are too many communities in New Jersey where that remains the case, where people don't get to enjoy the benefits of the state. And in order to fix gun violence in the state, what we've tried to do is take a three-pronged approach. You have to treat the root causes of violence. You have to keep dangerous weapons out of the hands of those most likely to use them. And you have to aggressively prosecute those who use guns to commit violence. And look, I started my career as a prosecutor at the U.S. Attorney's Office. I think there's an important role for cops and prosecutors to hold folks accountable when they engage in violence. But I also recognize that law enforcement can't do it on their own. And the only way that you ever actually address gun violence is by working in partnership with the community, which is why I think one of the most important things that we've done during my tenure was something that we announced just yesterday, which is that, or 2 days ago, that we're making available $10 million to support community-based violence intervention programs. We'll be giving out grants to community organizations working on the ground to try to stop the bloodshed before it starts. This was a really essential part of Governor Murphy's budget this summer, and we're really committed to getting this money out and getting it out as quickly as possible, because I know that it's the folks on the ground who can make a difference and can really drive down the violence. So that's gun violence. Second policy, or second priority area that's really important to me, is policing policy. This is something that my predecessor, A.G. Graywall, cared about, and it's something that matters to me as well. In New Jersey, the Attorney General has an authority that doesn't exist anywhere else in the country, which is that basically with the stroke of a pen, the Attorney General can issue a directive that applies to and binds all 38,000 state, county, and local cops in New Jersey. And so we have the ability to, in a sense, transform policing. it's an incredible power, but I think it also comes with a responsibility to use it responsibly and effectively and collaboratively. And I think the best example of how we've used this was the reforms we made to the state's use of force policy last year. It had not been updated in 2 decades. This is the policy that tells cops when they can use force and, more importantly, when they can't use force. And we spent 6 months meeting with community members, having community sessions, creating small working groups to discuss where are the places that we've fallen short on our use of force policy, and how can we make it better. And when we rolled it out last December, what I'm really proud of is that we had standing up there, when it was written about, it was described as the most progressive police reform in the country. But that we had standing there the ACLU, the NAACP, the police unions, and the police chiefs, showing that we had really broad buy-in. We weren't just pushing this down officers' throats, but we had gotten their support for this and their commitment to trying to reform use of force in the state. But what we did was not just reform the use of force policy. We also said that if it's just, if you don't have training, then it's just a piece of paper. And so we were requiring that all 38,000 cops in New Jersey undergo a 2-day training to learn how these use of force policies work. And in addition to that, we say training is great, but you also need to have accountability. And so we now have a system so that whenever any of our 38,000 cops in New Jersey use force, they are required to report it to our office within 24 hours. We take that information, we put it online, and make it available to the public. So all of you can go on and see how cops are using force. And we do that because we want you all to hold us accountable. We are committed to fixing it, and can hold our feet to the fire to make sure we do everything we can. The third priority that matters a lot to me is racial justice. And I don't need to tell all of you that the pandemic exposed and exacerbated racial disparities that have been in our country for centuries. And I think the reality is that you all have known this for a long time. And I think that the rest of America saw it because it was so stark and so awful what was going on, especially in the early months of the pandemic, the racial disparities and who was impacted by it. And I genuinely believe that there is a momentum now to do something about racial justice issues that haven't existed in a long time. And one of the great things about the Attorney General's office is that not only do we oversee the criminal justice system, and there's tremendous opportunities to fix that system, but the AG also plays a role in promoting economic opportunity and greater access to education and jobs and employment. And what I've tried to do is use all the different tools and resources of our office to try to promote racial justice. So one of the first things I did when I came in is that the New Jersey Attorney General's office is actually, I think, 17 different divisions. It's everything from our Division of Criminal Justice and State Police to the Division of Gaming Enforcement and the folks who regulate boardwalk games down the Jersey Shore. And the very first thing I did on my first day as acting AG was to instruct each of our 17 divisions to say, look, I know that I'm here for 6 months. I want you to come back to me with, each one of you, 3 specific concrete things that you can do in the next 6 months that will make a difference in the community that you serve. That's not going to fix the problem. That's not going to end racial injustice in our country. But I want you to find ways that you can work now immediately in concrete ways to push forward a vision of racial justice for what we can do in this state. And it's something that's underway right now. So, we're making it easier for folks who have professional licenses to get a license if they have a criminal conviction. We're making it easier for folks to report crimes if English is not their first language or if they have limited educational opportunity. We're finding all these ways that we can make our organization work better and to be more supportive of every community in the state. That's something I'm really committed to and excited about. So when Janine suggested that I had the opportunity to talk to my fellow friends in Trenton, I jumped at the opportunity because I love this work. I care so much about it and want to be able to discuss it with as many folks as possible. So I have time. I'm happy to have a conversation and answer any questions that you all have about the work that our office does.
That sounds good because when we get you here, we got you. And
you got me.
Number 2, you also mentioned that you have not only the bully pulpit, but you have the authority to impact some business opportunity. And so I want to encourage you to bring together from a social equity perspective, because you made that one of your pillars, corporate New Jersey and small business, Black community, Black business New Jersey, in a conversation so that we can look at where there is ownership, where there is CCs, where there is employment opportunity, where there is partnerships in the Black community, where there is relationship with ancillary businesses, where there is engagement that is meaningful and very, very proactive. And everything that you said suggests that you're moving in that direction. And that's big, because I think that what Janine and John have shared is that this is a different character. They may not have said it that way. They may have said it something like, this is a different whiteboard. And so I'm just being humorous, but we talk in terms of race. Race sometimes matter, and sometimes it doesn't matter. And the thing that Janine stressed, that this is a more human being. And so that was very important. Also, someone who gives us accolades about you is Reverend Taylor. And so, Brother Taylor, is there anything you want to say to somebody you just saw yesterday? Is there any questions you want to pose to him that you have not already posed to him privately that you want to just share from a public perspective? Because you and Janine and Sam and others, including Valina, are the bridges to folks that whom we may not be able to encounter every day, but y'all encounter every day, and y'all do that on behalf of all of us. So is there anything you want to share or ask the Attorney General in this setting?
Well, thank you, John. I like the fact that, first of all, he has a holistic approach to going at the various things that go on in the Black and brown community or communities as a whole, because I think America is finding out that whatever affects us affects everyone. And his approach is totally different. But we need to make sure, because we found out a long time ago that we can't lock our way out of these situations, but to make sure that we educate. Education is very important. Opportunities on all levels of government and law enforcement and everything are available. And the instruction, the tools, you talked about earlier, Weed and Seed, we're talking about PAL, Explore, programs and various things that the AG is looking at and working on. So I commend him on that. But one thing he said that was very important, instead of trying to fix everything at one time and wind up getting nothing done, focus on some main things, some common areas that we can put our hand on and get it done. And partnership is the way to do it. So I commend him on that. He's got a long way to go. I'm asking everyone on here that has some input and can talk to the governor and various things, because you know this is appointed and not elected. We need to make sure that after he completes the term of our former Attorney General, that then he can put his jacket on, move forward, and do the 4 years that is necessary for him to have to really get the job done. So Andrew, thank you. I hope you don't mind me this morning saying, Andrew, we work together a lot. And pray that God will continue to bless you. But we have some challenges. We got a lot to do. We're doing some things. Opportunities present itself. We have to take advantage of these opportunities. And I think we have a great moment right now to really get some things done. So I'm looking forward to working with him long term.
Thank you, Pastor Taylor. You know, in our communities, we say that you just can't show up when it's election time. We don't believe in that. And when we come and get you, that's an honor. And so I say that with all due respect. When we come and get you, that's because either we've heard something or you've done something or we believe in something that you're about to do. And Janine, you know him as well as many of us here. Is there anything that you want to ask the Attorney General, or is there anything you want to share in continuation relative to this chat?
There is, John. You know, I have a gadget, little app on my phone, and every time that there is a shooting or a suspicion of shooting anywhere in the city, it pops up and it gives us a notification, shooting, and it gives how far away it is from my address. I'm struck by the fact, and I've done some research, and I don't know if our city of Trenton has ever had an AG who actually is a member of our city. I keep looking as far back as I've known most of the AGs over the last 40 years, and I don't see another AG who actually lived in Trenton. I'm wondering, AG General, what is it? You live here, you know the feel of Trenton. You're in this community. What can we do as residents to help with this whole issue? And at some point, I'm sure in the next segment, Brother Gene's going to have some comments too, because I've had some amazing conversations with him. But what can we do to help you make our community safe?
It's a great question. It's a great question. I live in the Roebling Lofts, and I remember, gosh, it must have been my first year living in Trenton in 2018. I went out to dinner and came home and found out about the Arts All Night shooting, which was, right around the corner. I get the same alerts that Janine does. There are shootings that are happening in Chambersburg, not far from where I live, and it's scary. And I'm lucky because the Roebling Lofts it's a nice building. There's a gate out front for the parking lot. Not every resident of Trenton has that. There are folks who really live in fear of a stray bullet going in through their front window and hitting a grandkid. What can we do about it? So I think that what we need is real working partnership between the community and the police. And the reality is that I think there's a lot of folks in the community who are understandably hesitant to work with law enforcement because they've seen so many folks get locked up over time. This is something that Pastor Taylor and I were talking about just yesterday. Gun violence is spiking. It's spiking in Trenton. It's spiking in other cities across the state. We cannot make the same mistake that we made in the 80s, which was they passed sort of draconian drug laws, and the basic policy was to lock up as many young Black men as possible, and they took a broad sweep in the hope that gun violence would go down. That just, first off, it's wrong and it's unjust, but it just didn't work. And if we're going to actually solve the gun violence issue, we need to identify who the people are who are actually committing the violence, which is usually a very, very small number of folks. And we need to make sure that we're able to build the strongest cases possible to get them off the streets, right? I think it's a small group of folks. They are tough to make these cases, but by working with law enforcement, we can actually get some of these folks off. But that is just the tiniest piece of the solution, because you have to make sure that you take dangerous people off the street, but that you fill those streets with economic opportunity and educational opportunities and jobs and the support system that you need in order to help people thrive. One of the things that I've been talking to Reverend Boyer about is what we can do with helping to find jobs for folks coming out of prison, right? We put folks in, but we don't do enough to make sure that they actually are rehabilitated and then they can return to the community and be productive members. One of the things that we do, the Attorney General's office oversees the Juvenile Justice Commission, which oversees our state's juvenile facilities. One of the things that we will do is if kids are coming out of JJC facilities, our office will pay an employer for that person's wages if the employer is willing to hire them. And so one of the things I've been talking about with Reverend Boyer is whether we can find opportunities for kids from Trenton who have been in JJC facilities, who are returning to the community, to try to set them up with jobs so they actually can find something productive and rewarding in their lives that they might want to do instead of, returning to crime. We have to create those opportunities and make sure those structures.
So Andrew, you're walking down Stuyvesant Avenue.
Yep.
Because right away, well, let me just comment on it. And I say you're walking down Stuyvesant Avenue because I'm symbolically speaking.
Yeah.
But, Tracy Syfax has a story of being a criminal and then coming back and being a businessman who was running reentry programs in the city. I suggest that he's somebody that would behoove you to engage relative to his story, and the program, and the pathway being used, number one. Number two, a lot of states are using expungement as an opportunity to sort of try to deal with bringing those folks who have been at least impacted by minimal cannabis offenses back into the community. If there are no reentry programs and you got $10 million there you say you want to use, let's try to identify those programs statewide, countywide, i.e. Trenton-wide, who can then take a portion of that money and do what you just said in terms of taking formerly incarcerated youth and bringing them back into the community, and then having a program that could be one stop that then allows them to deal with jobs, health, homelessness, or unhoused, whatever it is. You have a unique opportunity there because folks have been using our historical Black misery as social equity talking points. You now have an opportunity to do real current things. But what I hear Janine's question leading to, and I hear John's questions leading to, is how we can help you do a better job. One, then, and this is not to negate the former Attorney General, but every step should be a new person coming in and having an opportunity to take whomever listens to that message forward. And you have a lot of folks here who believe in you, and you're coming up with some great ideas. Some historically have worked because we know them as best practices, and some are new because of the time period that we're in that require a new way of doing business. What can you tell us in sort of closing here that will allow us to be able to continue to support where you're going? And then what can we do, based on Janine's question, to continue to help you, not only in terms of lip service, how we going to help you, but who do we call, who do we reach out to? Is it the governor? Is it our elected officials? What needs to happen over the next 6 months so that the type of conversation that we're having with you now doesn't end with possibly the appointment of someone else, but will continue with an appointment of you in that position?
So those are all great questions, and I appreciate you asking, like, give me things concrete, which is totally right. So in terms of concrete things that we can do in Trenton to help, I actually think the 4 Cs is the best vehicle right now. I am really excited about the work that everyone is doing there, and because it's bringing all the right folks to the table. And I think that they're thinking about crime, they're thinking about economic opportunity, education, and I think supporting that effort. We've been very supportive, but I think everyone can focus their energy on that. I think that's the best way to invest in Trenton. In terms of me sticking around, look, at the end of the day, it's the governor's choice. The governor is going to make that decision. If you like what I'm doing, if you think that it makes sense for me to stick around, I'd love for the opportunity to do it. Tell the governor's office that ultimately it's the governor who's going to make that choice. It's the governor's choice and the governor's choice alone. I say the same thing to the governor's office that I say to all of you. These are my priorities. These are the things that I care about. I will continue working on them for as long as I can.
Okay. Well, listen, Janine, thank you for instructing me to get the Attorney General here. Andrew, let me just let you know a personal message to you from the Attorney General in Colorado, Phil Weiser, said hello. Phil's a personal friend, and I told Phil that we were going to have you on this call, and he said Andrew's a good man, and he should do well for New Jersey.
That's very kind.
And as we transition to our remarks, there were some elected officials who are homeboys and, y'all pardon me, homegirls, home women, who every day get up making a difference in our city. This year, Valina and Anthony Varelli and Shirley Turner were all candidates. My good friend, the bowler, kept me informed on what was going on. Y'all don't know who the bowler is, but the bowler is Ed Giddens. I call him the bowler because Ed keeps bowling $299, and his goal is to get 300. And he's just trying real hard to get there. And he's going to get there one day, I'm telling you. But he said to me, John, these 3 people have done as much as any 3 candidates and partners working together on behalf of our legislative districts. And so he felt excited. And so I want to just take a minute and acknowledge Ed for always making sure that I'm in the loop and we're in the loop. But also at the same time, I want to acknowledge Ed's boss, who is the Honorable Valina Reynolds Jackson, the Assemblywoman from LD 15, who was just reelected. And so, sister girl, welcome back home. We're so proud of you. We love you. Share with us your visions for going forward and what you need us to do to help you continue on this journey of being one of the best assemblymen and best assemblywomen in our state.
Well, thank you. I want to first thank the Capital City Area Black Caucus for listening to me as I come on these calls monthly. We started off with the census. Then we started voter engagement. We started with voter registration. I had a big push for poll workers. And so as we talk about policy issues, whether it's promoting racial justice or environmental justice, reforming some of our police issues, if we're talking about the racial disparity studies or even the Civilian Review Board. These are all issues that I believe are important to everyone on this call and that we have to continue to fight for. We talk about our low turnout, but I think this isn't the blame game, right? This is about us trying to make sure we continue to do the work that needs to be done. And so, this is the choir. You heard me say that before. We have a lot of people on here that have do great work in the community. We have to continue to get to the root cause of why we continue to have such a plethora of gun violence in our cities. And it's not about lock them up, and that's not the case. And so, to the Attorney General's point, when we talk about the 4 C's, they are awesome. They have been doing this work. I've had some interns that also talk about the ACEs training. I think I have one more step to go before I'll be a certified ACEs presenter. And so we have to, again, just continue to dig deep and pull back the onion in order to get to those root issues and not be afraid to talk about it. And that's what this platform allows us to do, is to have those hard conversations with our families. So as we are happy that we are going back to the legislature to continue to fight, just know that this fight is not easy. It is very, very hard to have these conversations with folks that don't believe in the vision that we have on this call. And so we're going to be back at the polls in 6 months. Those same issues that we talked about are still going to be there. And if we, as we talk about getting our board of elections in order, all the community organizing and volunteering that we do for the next 6 months, we have to make sure that we keep those folks engaged and bring them back to the polls. But we also need poll workers. We have new technology. Some folks aren't able to do it. And so as we have good experiences with early voting, there are some things that we've learned, note to self, that we need to clean up, but it's going to be expanding. I'm looking for, same day voter registration. Wouldn't that be awesome? But I know the challenges that comes with Paula's office, staffing, funding, and a whole host of other things that have to be taken care of. But, we are unique in New Jersey, where our governor has a tremendous amount of power. And so we want to make sure that we are there. You have the right representation to support him in that. And so we have to continue to look at all aspects. We can't just say we got to go to the polls and vote. It's a whole lot of stuff that has to happen before we get to the polls. And so I ask each of you on this call to sign up to be a poll worker, to go to the training, so that you can be able to explain to others what that's going to be like and then why it's so important. But, we have a strategic plan through the Capital City Black Caucus that we're all focused on the same issues. We just have to make sure, again, that we get to those hard to touch people again and again and again, so that they can receive some relief in their life. And so I just want to end it there and thank you all for your continuous support. But we got more work to do. And so let's not let up off the gas, but let's rest. I had a great Shabbat last night, so I'm feeling on fire right now. And I'm going to end this call. I got some more work to do, some more strategic planning to do. But I do want to share. I shared with a few people on this call. I was recruited to teach public policy at St. Peter's University. So I'm going to be teaching at the end of November. And so I'm just thrilled to be able to do that and learn even more about public policy and how we can impact New Jersey, and especially my hometown, the capital city of Trenton.
Okay, so I'm going to take a little prerogative here and go into my Shaq Diesel mode, Sam. Yeah, that was a candidate who just won re-election. You want to share any remarks and thank the folks for their support?
Yeah, JB, I want to say, definitely thank you to our folks that are on this call and Democrats all throughout this county that re-elected me and my two counterparts resoundingly. This is a new day for me. For 10 years, I've been the only person of color on the Mercer County Board of Commissioners, and now we've elected Terrence Stokes on the Board of Commissioners along with myself. So now we have two voices that understand Trenton, that understand issues that Black people go through, that are there to be a voice. I will say very quickly, we need the community not only to re-elect us and to elect us to positions, but then we need their support while we're there, because we are just two voices, but the voices of the community are who we represent. And so when those voices coalesce behind us, we can move things, we can get things done. There's very recently a project here in the city of Trenton, right on Parkside Avenue, that I've been pushing for, which is to redo the footbridge right there on Parkside Avenue going into Ewing. And that footbridge, which is the old railroad line, that's a really important bridge to folks in terms of community health and access. Originally, when the plans came up on that particular bridge 8 years ago, the plan was to rip it out and just put nothing back. And my question to our administration was, would we do that in Princeton? Because that's always my litmus test. If you're not going to do it in Princeton, then you're not going to do it in Trenton, right? And so they said, you know what, we will redo the bridge. This is going to be one of the most expensive footbridges that the county has ever built, but it's important that people in the city recognize that we're going to spend money here. The average bridge in Mercer County costs us about $1.3 million. This footbridge is going to, the average bridges are normally for traffic and cars. This particular bridge is going to cost us $1.6 million, but it has historic value, it has community value. And so I need for the community, when we're fighting for things like this, to show up, right? And to say, this means something to our community. And it really is critical. I know that the AG had to run out, but when you start talking about, John, expungement, that's critical. But also, since I have the Assemblywoman on, we need to begin looking at the rules around Centers for Child Care Licensing, because you can expunge, but sometimes those people whose records have been expunged still can't get jobs with school districts and preschools and things of that nature. That's really critical, considering that in Mercer County, the highest form, especially in Trenton, highest form of employment is government employment, right? And so you're locked out of jobs that are the most available to you in your community. So we've got a lot of work to do in that particular area. We're going to be spending more money. We spent the money on the voting machines to make sure that we had a more fair process. For those people that don't understand why we went to paper, for the last 20 years, the argument in the courts has been around whether or not you go with electronic or paper. We chose machines that actually did both. And if it ever goes to court, which many times it does, the paper is going to be the validating source for the elections here in New Jersey, here in Mercer County specifically, but definitely in New Jersey. So we fought for those machines. What we're going to be fighting for now is to put more money into advertising, because I believe that Paula was exactly right. The turnout was low for early voting across the state. but particularly here because it got rolled out so quickly and we couldn't advertise it the way that it needed to be advertised. So most people didn't even know that they could early vote. We're going to be pushing to put more money in that area so that we can do it better.
Okay, thank you, Sam. I think Terrence and Kristen were supposed to be on the call, but I don't see either one of them. And so I'm gonna keep Sam, you, and Valina in the conversation. But what I want to do is I want to take a minute since I see them here and ask Adela, are you on the call still?
Yes, I am. How are
Yeah.
you?
Can you take a few minutes and just update us on what's going on with COVID in the city?
Oh, absolutely. Right on the spot. I just love it. Good morning, everyone. Currently, we're having a vaccination clinic going on at the Trenton Firehouse. It's from 9 to 1. We are providing boosters as well. So if anyone is interested or you know someone, please send them to the Trenton Fire Headquarters on Perry Street. I'm going to put my, okay.
Hello?
We're here.
Okay, just want to make sure I wanted to shift over because I'm multitasking here. But also I wanted to turn my video on. As far as the city where we are, we're about 76% vaccinated in the city of Trenton. We are, so we're getting there. It's a push, but we're definitely out there doing some grassroots and really trying to get everyone vaccinated. We're trying to get up to 85%. That is our goal by the end of this year. So we are pushing heavily. We are doing our boosters as well. We have our mobile unit mobilization in homebound mobilization process, which I'm very excited about, which was something I really wanted to implement. And so with that program that we started back in April, we have vaccinated 600 individuals who are homebound in the city of Trenton. And so we are going back and administering the boosters for those same individuals. And so it's a heavy lift, but it's something that is really needed. So my team and I are really out there 7 days a week. So there's no time for the weary. We're definitely out there because the community need us. And also in regards to our numbers, the trajectory of our mortality rate is stagnant. Thank God for that. We have seen an increase in our positivity rate. We're looking at 10 to 15 positive cases a week. And that's just from my department with the city. That's not inclusive of like Henry J. Austin or any other hospitals that are doing their own testing and pharmacies as well. So those numbers are increasing. We are looking at a spike in that, and we know that's going to happen more so in the holiday season, and, you know, as family and friends congregate. So we are preparing ourselves for that as well. So I'm trying to think what other numbers that will be very, very important. But I do want to tell you that the city of Trenton, we are moving our location. We have a vaccination clinic, which will be on Olden Avenue, whereas New York Avenue is close to that proximity next to Medical Home Pharmacy. So we will have a vaccine clinic program there. It's 10 rooms. But inclusive with that, we're going to have our mental health and wellness component as well. So it's going to be twofold that's going to be coming out of that. And we're hoping to get that up and running in January of 2022. As we know, with the pandemic, mental health and trauma has been something that has been impacting our community, and the needs are great, and working on really solidifying our program in regards to that and what the needs are. So with the pandemic, you're talking about COVID, but you're also talking about mental health and trauma with the gun violence as well.
Okay. Well, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
And I got another minute or so. Addie, are you there, Addie?
Yes, I'm here.
I know you weren't expecting this, but can you take a minute or two and just update us on anything that's happening at the school? And Sam, you know, I'm kind of glad sometimes some people don't show, because we have an opportunity to get a divergent group of speakers coming in, and we might even want to think about having a city report and a state report and a health report and a school report as we go through in preparations for January 2022 with our meeting.
I agree.
So Addie, please share with us what's been going on from the school perspective, and maybe even, how you may need some help in terms of what you're doing.
Okay, so good morning. Unfortunately, Superintendent was not able to join this morning. He did send us a message that he would not be able to join, but just a few things, and actually some exciting news that was received yesterday, that the Trenton School District will be receiving additional funding to work on our school facilities. So the governor made an announcement yesterday, and I believe that Trenton is in line to receive $2 million to help with whatever improvements are needed in our school facilities. So that was great news as of yesterday. Certainly, we just had a discussion about COVID. We have had COVID-19 cases in the schools. However, there has not been an outbreak that has caused the schools to have to be closed. And so that's a good thing. But again, it's not a good thing when we have cases, but it is a good thing that we have not had to close schools because of the numbers of cases. There is a COVID-19, there's a dashboard that has been added to the website. So if you want to check the figures in terms of what's going on in the schools, you can actually check it live on the dashboard that is updated. Instruction is going on. We received information about initial testing that took place. And, unfortunately, as we expected, our results are not that wonderful because of all the issues that were going on. And that we had, let's just say we had some struggles before that. And certainly those struggles were amplified in terms of the pandemic, in terms of achievement levels. And so there is a lot of work that still needs to be done in the district. And that work is much more difficult because we're actually trying to, in a lot of cases, trying to make up for some of the instruction that was not as, shall we say, was not as effective in the remote setting as it would have been perhaps in the classroom setting. And so there's a lot of work to be done. We have a new person who is shall we say, the chief academic officer. And she and our superintendent are working very hard to get boots on the ground to make sure that people are out in the schools in terms of supervisors and those folks actually checking instruction. And we actually have learning loss teachers this particular school year to target those students who have demonstrated that they have lost ground during the pandemic. So there are learning loss teachers at most of the elementary schools so that, again, we can work on those particular issues. Social emotional learning is incorporated this particular year because, as was noted, the pandemic caused a number of mental health challenges, right? The lack of socialization, the fact that students were not able to interact with their peers and certainly not able to interact with their teachers. So there is a lot going on in the district. We are moving forward. We are adhering to the strategic plan that was developed last year with input from the community. And we're also, superintendent and his team is actually going out to various schools in the different areas to actually engage the public in a discussion regarding some district reorganization that's going to take place, or that's planned to take place for next year. As you know, a number of our schools are overcrowded. Some schools in the West Ward area are closed because of low enrollment. And in fact, the South Ward is over-enrolled. And so there has to be some shifting going on. And so the district is planning to do that shifting for next year with board approval after we've heard from different areas in Trenton about their thoughts about the plan for reorganization. And also, we are beginning the process of renaming 2 of our schools. It has been announced that both Columbus and Wilson will undergo a name change. There is a board policy that has to be followed regarding that. And we made the announcement. We've had one town hall about that, virtual town hall. We are going to have an in-person town hall about that. And there's a process if you'd like to nominate some entity name in terms of person, place, or thing to rename those 2 schools. That may be only the beginning, but again, those are the 2 schools that are targeted currently for renaming for the 22-23 school year. We had planned to do it for this year, but there was so much that we were trying to do in terms of getting a superintendent in place, and we did get a superintendent in place who, I think is doing a great job in terms of, coming out and choosing other people to support him and get the job done here in Trenton. So that's a quick update. Hopefully I've said what needs to be said.
You have been, as always, as they say, thorough and efficient. And so we appreciate that. You know, again, Sam, she just said something that you and I have been working on with L.A. Parker and some other folks relative to the name changes of buildings, bridges, parks, schools. It may behoove the Capital City Area Black Caucus to send a letter to Board Chairman Lane and the superintendent with whatever the process is, recommending a Shirley or a Bonnie or a Doug Palmer or some others who may be on this call. Here's an opportunity that I think we ought to follow up in. And thank you, Addie, because if we don't get conversations like this, sometimes we don't know. And so this is where these conversations become very, very important.
And just one additional thing. So the district has a new person who is the communications director, who is spearheading some of those changes in terms of making the website user-friendly and adding various things on the website that may be of interest to the public. She's also in the process of developing a newsletter that should be coming out within the next 2 weeks. And certainly, I believe that we have the contact information for most of the folks here. And if you get one, certainly you'll be able to forward that to other people who we may not have the contact information for.
Okay, thank you. Felina or Sam, anything, we got a couple of minutes here before we go to our next agenda item. Anything either one of you want to say and wrap up?
JB. Yeah, two things.
Sam, but since you and I kind of control the room, can we throw the mic to the honorable good-looking sister to have the first word, and then you just hold on a minute. Felina, hey Sam, Felina scratched her head and said, "I'm glad John picked that up." So just hold on 1 second, Sam. Felina, anything you want to share in exiting?
No, but I'm delighted to hear from Ms. Lane, Addie Lane, about the school name changes. You know, Jean Bowie and I have been talking about this long time. So I would highly recommend that we move forward with the process and putting in our names. I think it's just, sometimes things take a long time, but, I see the light. So let's move forward in that space. And, Sam and I, we work great together. That's, I think I'm the older sister. So, yeah, okay. I go first, Sam. I'm older than you. I'm the big sister. But that's it. I thank everybody for all their input on this call, and let's just keep continuing the work we have to do out here.
All right, Sam?
Yeah, JB, just 2 points I wanted to make. I wanted to say, and I put it in the chat, but kudos to Director Lopez for the work that she's done. The County Commissioner Board, we asked for the numbers because, everything that flows from the state flows through us to the municipalities. And although the municipalities do the work because they have the staff, we manage a lot of that work with them. When she came on, the numbers were abysmal in the city of Trenton. We were really trying to get the city's numbers up. And we get the numbers at every meeting. We ask for those. We have 5 towns in Mercer County that are at 100%, but they're small towns. Right. And so it's a little bit easier to get to 100% when you have, 20 or 30,000 people. In the city of Trenton, per our last census, I think we're at 86 or 87,000 people. And to be at 77% in a community that is adverse to vaccinations, many times, that is incredible work. The amount of work that she had to do in order to get us to those numbers. And when you look at our 12 to 18-year-old group, incredible numbers there as well. As a matter of fact, we're equal to Ewing right now. So Ewing and Trenton are both at 77% of their adults in the vaccinated population. So just kudos. And again, Ewing is only 40,000 people. Trenton is 86,000 people, right? So that we're talking about percentages and what she's done. That is absolutely incredible. I also wanted to make a point that, and you and I have been working along with Andrew Bobby and L.A. Parker and other people to try and push. Because in the county, there's nothing, no parks, no buildings that are named after anyone of color, all in our county, from our county's perspective. And I know that Doug Palmer, having been a county commissioner, having been the mayor of the city of Trenton, we believe that something should be named after him. And so I'm going to be calling on this group of people and our Assemblywoman to have the conversation, because we finally found something that Doug would say yes to, which is the tunnel, which he had a hand in having built over in South Trenton, in the park on top of that tunnel. And we would like to get that park and that tunnel named after Mayor Douglas H. Palmer. And so I'm going to be calling on our state legislators and the people on this call, because we need to force the hand. That we do not have anything of significance in this county named after a Black person in this county. And we've had some significant Black people do some work in this county. So I'm going to be asking for people's help.
Well, you know me, Sam, while I'm about us working together, I'm also about power. We got folks coming up next year for election that happen to be in our county. We got folks coming up in 2 years for city council that are in our county. We have friends who've given lip service throughout the county who said we want to do whatever we can to help Trenton. And so here's going to be an opportunity to do that. We're changing direction now. I'm going to tell you all a story that you might find very funny.
John?
Now, hold on, brother. I'm coming right to you. Hold on. I got to call the bishop. So he went and got a three-way call together, and lo and behold, on the other side of the call was Reverend Taylor. And they grilled me for damn near an hour and a half on weed and seed, on public safety. I mean, they already have their own vantage point, but they wanted another vantage point from somebody who had done the work, especially from the weed and seed and some of the stuff that had been doing in public safety in the city. And we had a tremendous conversation. I mean, a tremendous conversation. And I've asked Gene and Pastor Taylor if they would come back and talk about that conversation in the context of our next theme, which is the future of the city. And so, bro, Pastor, would you and Gene sort of come forward? Whoever wants to come first, doesn't matter to me, but talk about what y'all are working on and the potential impact of what y'all are working on will have on youth and families in our city.
Yeah, so I will pass to Brother Pastor. Brother Pastor, since your light came on, why don't you say a few words and I'll just give a quick update.
Okay, I was going to pass the baton to you, but I wanted to talk about before we closed out on the last.
Well, go ahead.
I just
But John, go ahead. Go ahead, take a minute there, John, and then segue into the other piece.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Director Lopez on the excellent job that the health team is doing. Sunday, they came here. When I said amen, we rolled up the sleeves, and we've had the booster given to and the other vaccine given to about 100 people. So I like to say to the interfaith community, when we get done praying, let's roll up our sleeve and get the vaccine and continue to make our city safe. God bless you.
Okay. Brother Gene?
Yeah. So thank you. I mean, I enjoy these meetings, and there's so much information that goes through. So I think everybody on the call pretty much have seen the presentation on Trenton gun violence that we did for the work we did for the 4 C's, sponsored by Brother Pastor Taylor and Brother Commissioner Sam. It's been a year now. And so I guess we have made significant progress in getting people to work together to move the agenda forward. And so for me, I even had some T-shirts made up that says, want to reduce gun violence, change the condition of the people. And so in the work that we did, and I see Sister Ty is on this call, but in the work that we did, there were 5 causes that rose to the priority. The first one was in healthcare, the need for childhood trauma support. The second was in the environment, high levels of poverty. The third, employment, creation of business relationships to develop good jobs. The fourth was policy and procedure, collaborative policing and community engagement, and then culture, prison community reform, and culture change. And so we've been working since July on addressing the environment, addressing high poverty, and also policing and community policing and engagement. And just to give you some idea of what's going on, really grateful to the superintendent, Superintendent James Earl, through leveraging relationships with the Mercer County Community College. About 3 weeks ago, there were a week's worth of information sessions with Mercer County Community College, exposing Trenton High School students from TCHS and Daylight to CTE opportunities and dual enrollment opportunities to actually, at the end of their senior year, they can graduate with a diploma, a certificate, career certificate, and also college credits. And so the way to think about it for me is that the great Frederick Douglass once says, it's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. And so all the efforts that we do should be driven to capture these children who, the trauma is real, poverty is real, 28-point-something% of residents in Trenton live at or below the poverty level. So if we can create opportunities to expose our young people to different pathways, that in and of itself can help reduce gun violence. Another thing that comes to mind just in these conversations is I really like that expungement conversation, because a good name is worth gold, and anything that can prove their brand creates opportunity for them. And then the last thing is in 2 weeks, to show you how things work, leveraging relationships with Mercer County Community College, they are going to do a tour through the Trenton Housing Authority. I think there's 4 housing complexes on the agenda that Mercer County will do the same exact thing they did with the high school and actually visit and expose the residents to these CTE opportunities. I'll give you one. So this is a good one too. So in Trenton, we need building inspectors. Well, there is a certification program in Mercer County Community College. It's only 2 months long. The starting salary for a building inspector in Trenton is over $40,000. Did y'all hear? And it's free. So this is paid for stuff. And so I think I'm really excited about that, because Brother Jelani, Brother Freedom, Sister Pam, and the folks at Mercer County Community College, I sat in a meeting and it really took hold. So that addresses the poverty piece. The piece that I want to just highlight the work done by Brother Director Steve of the Trenton Police is the Explorers program. So we had these conversations right before the 4C's presentation about bringing back the Explorers, bringing back PAL, and the Explorers program launched on the 28th of October. Now this exposes our young people to careers in law enforcement. We need to have law enforcement in our neighborhoods that look like us. So how do you do it? You grab them when they're young. And then there's one last piece. The trauma is real. I've heard stories, I've talked to people about the trauma that these babies experience, dysfunctional households, the violence that's on the street. We have to address the trauma. But the adults of today that are creating these problems, this crime, they were the babies traumatized yesterday. So we need to address both. And I'm happy that Sister Director Adela is on this call. We have a follow-up meeting to kind of do some brainstorming about attacking that issue. I'm the Director of Operations for Henry J. Austin. Give a shout out to Dr. Kimmy and Dr. Evans and Merkel for being a part of the original work on the gun violence, and they're part of this follow-up. So there's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of good people trying to do the work. And I would say this, that addressing the trauma and creating opportunities for people to earn good living will make the difference for us. And it's nice that you want to help people to get a job that come out of the juvenile justice system. so that they could get jobs. But what good is a job if you don't have the necessary knowledge, skills, and abilities to perform that job? So my proposal, and I've been trying to get a connection with the Department of Corrections, is let's connect the Department of Corrections with Mercer County Community College so that when they come out, they go right into a training program to acquire some skills.
That makes a lot of sense, Gene. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's it for me, Brother John. I talked fast, so I hope everybody got that.
But Taylor, do you want to take a minute and piggyback on that?
Yeah, it's very important that we deal with the poverty issue, a holistic approach, because no matter what happens, if a person is hungry and destitute, it leads to other things, and plus lack of education. Another thing that I'm pushing now with the Assembly and also talking to the governor on the same way we made community college free for 2 years, let the VOTEC schools be free too, because the same families, we have trillions of dollars getting ready to come into infrastructure. That means you're going to need personnel, employees to do those trades. So if we have a shortage of people working now, we hear it every day on the news, there's a shortage, people need employees. So these are high-paying blue-collar jobs. If we can get them in trade school, when this money rolls in throughout the country, then we can put people to work. And a lot of those people that need to be out there doing that work is Black and brown. And you know, now you got to have a certificate. We've been doing that work forever, but all of a sudden now you need a certificate. That's another conversation we can have later. But we can send them to the VOTEC schools free, and we'll have people ready to fill those positions as this money is rolled out throughout all the states and counties and towns. And if you have a job, then you can take care of your family and various things like that. Another thing with this trauma, I do a lot of funerals that were related to this gun violence. Just Saturday, I had to bury a young brother that was 24 years old, left 3 children behind, and left a young lady. Now she's got to take care of those children, his mother and everybody else. We have to take this on the road. We need to be able to get people, I don't care if it's handing out flyers or cards or whatever, because a lot of times people ain't coming to us. So at these homegoings, funerals, whatever it is, we need to maybe start thinking about having somebody there to hand out information, and these young people and these families put the information in their hands so they can call and get this help. Because as we, in Trenton, we are developing and redeveloping 7.5 miles. Every inch of this city, somewhere along the line, is under development, redevelopment. We have to make a strong investment in people. Brick and mortar is good. We need new people here. We need to make sure the people that are here can stay here. But we have to make sure people are strong, mentally educated, can put food on their table and a roof over their head. Hopefully, they can buy their homes. If not, while they're renting, we can teach them how to manage their money so they can have a piece of America. That's it for me.
All right, that sounds good. And, you know, that is an unbelievable, the fact that you and Gene are doing that work is an indication of not waiting on anybody, that we are the people that we've been waiting for. And so thank you both for continuing that work. Our next speaker is Jeanette Smart, former president of the NAACP in Trenton, but also one of the hardest working sisters in show business. Jeanette, are you all still on the call?
Yes, I am, John. Can you hear me?
Yes. Tell us your thoughts about the future of the city. You've been in Trenton all your life. You know everything and everybody. You've been in leadership positions. What are your thoughts about the future of the city?
Well, I really want to see the city grow immensely, and I want to see good leadership in this city. And I think the way for this to happen is that we have to put in good leadership. We have to put in examples of folks who are leading for the purpose of our people here, our city. I liked what I've been seeing under the new police director and new fire director. I think they're moving in a way that can help and enhance our city. I love seeing the new direction of our health director, Dr. Lopez. You're doing a wonderful job, and I think that should keep going. I also think that we need to have a city slogan that puts inspiration into the residents, that lets the residents know that they're cared about and that we are all on the same page in moving the city forward. I also see that we still have a lot of problems in our education system, and we have to figure out how to move that education system to what Pastor Taylor and to what Brother Gene.
Right.
Right? To what Brother Gene was saying. Sorry, Brother Gene. To what Brother Gene was saying. We have to redirect. We have to re-steer our education system so that when our children come out, they come out with the skills to be able to provide for their families. It is not always necessary to attend college. So we have to start with those vocational abilities and do what needs to be done so our children can understand that once they have a skill, it can never be taken from them. They can always use that skill, and that skill can provide them a means to take care of themselves and their families. And I think that's the forward direction that we need to go in. I also think that people born here in the city of Trenton and those who have come in to be Trentonians want what's best for us. And Trenton is a tough city. It's small, but it's a tough city to crack. And we got to come together as a unit. We can't all have our fingers open and not have a closed fist. We need a closed fist in this city to move towards the right direction to help it be the capital it can be. And I'm starting to see leaders coming out. I'm starting to see young leaders coming out. And that's what I like. I like that the diversity of leadership is moving in a direction that's forward moving. Our young people, our millennials, our Gen Xers, our, I don't know the rest of the things that, there's so many of them, but our young people are really starting to get involved in our Trenton politics, and I think that's great. And I think that having those new thoughts and ideas will flourish Trenton, and I don't think we should be afraid of it. A lot of times, older generations get afraid of new. We can no longer be afraid of the new. The new is what we need. The new will carry us forward. And I'm so forward to looking to this next election, because I think this next election is going to bring about what we need here in Trenton. So as we move forward, let's focus on our youth. Let's focus on our health. Let's focus on getting those people who are in need what they need to get. And let's focus on having a vision that's inclusive for everyone. Thanks, Don.
No, thank you, sis, and appreciate you. I know your NAACP is meeting right now, and I appreciate you taking away from that meeting to come and share some thoughts with us. Just shows your commitment to multiple silos in our community. So thank you.
You're so welcome.
Our next speaker is the wife of our chair, Tusker Frisbee, who I think has something she wants to share.
Good afternoon. Well, good morning still. How are you? It's been a great experience here today. Listening to all of you. I've been out serving here in the community with our moms and my amazing sister Crystal. But I wanted to just announce today that I am planning on throwing my hat in the ring. I plan on running.
Hold on, Tess. Can we turn off can we put mute buttons on, please?
Thank you.
Jeanette, can we put mute buttons on? Sam, you have to take her off then. She can't hear. All right, there we go. Go ahead, Tessa.
So I just wanted to make it official that as of today, I am planning on being a blessing the best that I can to our city to make a difference. There's a lot that I see going on in our community and things that I think that we can do differently to make it a little bit better for us. So with that said, I want to throw my hat in the ring for City Council running in 2022 as a West Ward candidate. So I am joining the ranks of the others who are out there, but just want to make a difference, whether you are with me or for me. I am not here to fight anybody. I am here to fight for our city, and that is going to be my message. I'm fighting for the city. I am advocating for the city, and I am not here to fight any candidates. I want everybody to put their best foot forward, their best hat forward. We can do this and do it. As si se puede, together, all of us, we can do this. Familia, tu familia, es mi familia. We are one. You are my brother. You are my sister. So that's my message on today. And I hope that I get your vote and that we can come out here and do this together. I'm running for the West Ward here in the city of Trenton, New Jersey.
Did Tuska just announce at the CCABC Zoom in Spanish and in English that she was running for the West Ward Council? That was big. Well, you know, what's interesting is that our next speaker, I think, is in a similar position. Every time I've done a project in the city, I've called on this young lady, and she has unconditionally said, Coach Bailey or Mr. Bailey, whatever you need. And so she called me a couple of weeks ago, and then she sent me a text message this morning with a flyer on it that says, I'm here, I'm out there, I'm doing it. And so I thought it would be good, since we had Tusker come in, to also have Yasminelli come in, who also has an announcement she wants to make about the future of the city. Yes?
Hello, thank you, Mr. Bailey. Good morning, everyone. Yes, I'm excited. I want to say congratulations to Tuska, because I love her, I admire her, I respect her so much, and congratulations. That was definitely news. I want to say, yes, I am also throwing my name in the ring as well for the city of Trenton. I am running as city council at large. I agree with Tuska. It's not about fighting each other. It's about getting them some fresh leadership in office who actually care and genuinely love our city. And we want to do what's best for our city, right? So I heard so many people speak, and everyone on this call has always been involved. You know, most of you guys I have relationships with, worked with in the community. It's about addressing some of those key things, right? And I want to say, as an educator, I do see the trauma every single day. I would honestly say this year is the most challenging year I've seen with our young people. They've lost a lot of their friends. They lost a lot of their friends to their own friends, to in their own circles. And it's very, very challenging as an educator to move our students forward academically, right? We have to address the social emotional. So I want to definitely say kudos to our new superintendent, because we have put a focus on that at the beginning of our school year, and it does have to be ongoing. We tried it for 1 month at the beginning. We need to keep it going all year round because our students are angry. Someone else mentioned, obviously with the trauma and utilizing our resources, we need to focus on meeting our parents where they are, meeting the people where they are. And I know someone else mentioned that earlier, but a lot of our parents don't know, and so they are not knowledgeable in areas on ways they can help their kids. We have some resources out there, but they don't know where they are. So we need to come to where they are, where they live at. Let's go into those cities, go into those streets and those blocks and get those people the knowledge and the resources that they need and know what's available for them. But I want to say thank you, John. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I was out, so I see Tuska is out and about. I was out and about, ran here just to jump on a computer because we're also doing a feeding downtown at the moment. But yes, thank you, everyone.
All right, and since we're in that, AB and Kelly, I'm going to ask a little bit of indulgence here. And since we're in that particular stream, I'm going to ask Atalia Armstrong, who I think also is stepping out there to try to run for city council. And so, Atalia, you want to come and share your focus and what you see as a vision for the city?
Yes, thank you. First, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. I want to first thank you, Mr. Bailey.
Hold on. You got a limited amount of time, so don't. We're going to find out who you are.
I'm going to talk fast.
Okay, guys.
First, I want to thank you for inviting me to speak here today. I know many of you on this panel already, and if we haven't worked together, we will. I look forward to doing great things in this city. So I'm Atalia Armstrong. I'm a community advocate that focuses on social and economic justice. I'm an at-large member of the NAACP Trenton chapter. I chair the Historic Development Collaborative. I started the local call to action around reparations here in the city of Trenton. And because I'm a graduate of the Citizens Academy, I am an ambassador for the Trenton Police Department. In addition to my bachelorette degree in social sciences and my associate's degree in criminal justice, I have successfully organized and lobbied on both the nation's capital and the New Jersey State House, not limited to reparations. Assisted IOS, a local nonprofit with the African American local narrative, while also advocating for the preservation of African American historical structures in the city of Trenton. My activism spans the political, social, and economic spectrums through protest, demonstration, and lecture. And I am also a 2022 candidate for Trenton City Council West. And with that, I want to say I come to restore and rebuild. I come to bring back professionalism and integrity to the seat of the people. It is my goal to avail my expertise, education, and experience to uplift, educate, and empower all, not only here in the city of Trenton, but throughout the state of New Jersey. And that's just a little bit of who Atalia Armstrong is.
Well, thank you. And, I think it's good that we all know who the candidates are, because at some point we're going to be supporting what appears to me to be a talented group of individuals. And so I'm inspired by what I see. I'm not sure if y'all could take a look at the very middle of the Zoom room, but the brother there in the middle of the Zoom room is doing the opposite of what the rest of us are doing. The rest of us are clean shaven, and we're growing hair at the top. This brother is clean shaven, and he's growing hair at the bottom. But I think that's part of the wisdom that he has accumulated over the many years of serving the citizens in the city of Trenton in multiple positions. And so I asked Andrew Bobbitt, one of my good friends, if he would come and share a little bit about his vision for the city, what he's seen and what he would like to see. AB?
Well, thank you, Sam, for having me. I'm going to represent the Department of Citizen Concerns for the city of Trenton. I'm going to just give you a little update of things that's been happening. I know we have a lot of individuals talking about the reentry program located in the city of Trenton. It's under the directions as the supervisor, but it's under the directions of Dr. Lopez in our Health and Human Service Department. I'll just give you a little update. Our reentry program for the last 2 years had hired over 100. We have hired individuals that just got out of jail. I just seen this one guy we just hired. He's working for the city of Trenton. He did 11 years in jail. He was out 3 months. Yeah, 3 months. And we ended up getting him a job working with the city. He has changed his life around. We had a great talk. We just don't give individuals jobs. And just because you had a record or you got out of jail, we sit down and go through a progress and let them know what their job position want to be, what they need to do, how they should act when they get to work. We are also working with companies like Waste Management, Solitaire, Amtrak. We just sat with Assemblywoman Valina Reynolds and Ed Giddings. We are working with UPS. UPS is now looking to hire maybe 200 individuals. We are working on a transportation park up in Cranberry. So I also want to thank Assemblywoman Valina and Anthony Varelli for some of the money that they have got from the state for us to run these programs with the reentry. Also, I want to give y'all an update what's happened. I had a meeting with Big Oo, the rapper here in Trenton, with the mayor. Just yesterday, Big Oo, about 8 or 9 other rappers that's located in the city of Trenton. Now, you just say they are rappers. No, they're more than that. These are some of the same individuals that when we have our shootings and killings, which we have these individuals might make songs after these people got killed. They started a lot of chaos in the city. We have finally got them all together. They're from each part of the city, which is something that never happened in a while. And we go back to this, that if we could get them together, working with the superintendent and the Board of Education and getting information out and going to these schools to talk to kids It's not all about rapping. It's also jobs that they can look at and teaching. But they are a big influence in the city, or maybe sometimes of these shootings. I want to get back to something that Sam and John, you know about. I hear people talking about we need to reach out to these kids. We need to reach out to these people that are doing the shootings. If you ride through these cities, everybody know, you know where the drug area is at. You know who hanging on a block, Hermitage, River Section, Walnut, South Trenton, Center Street. We know where they at, Dolly Homes. And I remember the program we had. Remember that time when the Bloods and Crips was here? We went to every one of these neighborhoods where they're located. We stayed the night. We stayed there on a Friday night. We stayed there on a Saturday night all day, and then we left Sunday. That means we was there in a neighborhood sleeping, and then waking up still in that neighborhood. We could talk about these shootings all day, but what we do in the mayor, and I got to give a lot of credit to the mayor, to being a white man going out here in these communities. We go to the communities. We go to those blocks. A lot of these people that we have got jobs for, they laughed and said they didn't want a job because they didn't want to be embarrassed by their friends. 3 days later, here come 5 or 6 of them at City Hall. You're right, man, we need a job. We got to stop talking about how we stop the killings. We can't sit in the back and talk about the killings. You have to know, why are they killing people? Why are they so upset? You have to go to these streets. And I would ask anybody, we could set up a date, time, or whatever. Let's go to where they at. We can't sit back in our office, talk about we're going to do this and do that. We have to know why. And you will see a lot of reasons. When you, right now, it's not like when the Bloods and Crips was here. It wasn't like North Trenton against River Section or West Trenton against South. We have interaction. We have the 100 block of Walnut and the 200 block of Walnut, which have family members shooting and killing each other. We have a problem in Dolly Homes. Dolly Homes is shooting each other. We are talking about groups now that are not separated by wards. They're separated by streets. I mean, up the street, down the street. They're right there shooting each other. So that's the problem we have. How do we find out and try to connect with these people? We have to come outside. We have to go where they're located. We could talk about this all the time. Why are they shooting? The mayor not shooting nobody. The assembly people are not shooting nobody. Sam ain't shooting anybody. We have to find out why. And a lot of reasons, it's a lot of stuff on Facebook. It's a lot of pettiness. And if we don't go out there and reach out to them, this shooting is not going to stop. The mayor of Newark just texted us yesterday. 5 people were shot in Newark yesterday. 5. And at the same time period, we have to work as a community. We got to stop being scared to go in these neighborhoods. Because I tell you, I can see people leaving City Hall, the state, and they live in the city, but they'll take 29 on Main Street, get on 29 and go around the damn city. You need to go through the neighborhoods and see what's really happening and stop being afraid. Because I know I'm from down south. My grandmother would never be afraid of a child. And as long as we continue to be afraid of them and they know it, they're going to continue doing what they do. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you. Thank you, AB. We appreciate that insight. And you know what's really interesting is to get these divergent points of view, these multiple points of view, these points of light coming in, because all of what we seek in terms of clarity has to do with being able to make sure that the lights are on. And so that's respecting each of you in your respective position and influence in the city. You know, I'm going to change direction. We've been talking to, and she knows that I don't have a problem with hearing her thoughts, but I've asked Kelly Ingram, who's an artist and a volunteer at I Am TRENTON Foundation, if she would come and give us her perspective on the future of the city and what she would like to see. Kelly, you're hiding in there and raise Zoom email, but tell us what you'd like to see.
He's a techie. I don't know any of that stuff, but I have to say thank you John, Janine, Sam, these forums are tremendous. I mean, I just hope everybody in the city listens in, because the information that you provide and the sharing of information, helping break down the silos. I mean, this is what I wanted to say, is that the more we all work together, I've lived here 34 years, I'm not going anywhere. I love my city. And the more that we come together and share the ideas, share what is working, what's not, what Andrew said, meet the youth where they are, give them the opportunities that they want, foster their community, their curiosity, so that they have these pathways that are easy for them to access what they want to say. What do I want to be today? But maybe that changes for what I want to be tomorrow. And we have all of these pieces of the puzzle to make our city even better than it is, because we have a tremendous city, as we all know. Yeah, we have to work on, I see that home ownership is up tremendously, first-time home buyers. The blight in our city is so much less. That's what I see in the next few years. We grow our city together. We become a historical destination for a city that had the tough conversations and really sees the truth about what our country was founded on. And we're on that map of come to Trenton and see how we discuss and show what the truths are. And so we have the places for people to stay, the places for people to eat, and we become that kind of destination. And we are the example that small cities of our size show what our bigness is, and we lead. And that's what we're doing now. We just have to get more and more people behind us and support us, so that we have a balance of people coming into the city with those that are here and could use a lift up, so that we're not a city that goes gentrification. We collaborate. We have the conversations, we foster curiosity. And I have to thank you all again, because these are the most hopeful conversations that I've heard in the city. And thank you for doing this.
Thank you, Kelly, for your comments.
Hey, John, I'll say one thing because I have to go. It was a fire 3 o'clock in the morning at 800 block of East State Street. Matter of fact, that was one of my first apartments. I moved in back in the 80s. One of your basketball players is injured. He's a city worker, William Johnson, Reese Johnson's brother, Nut.
Yeah.
So he got burnt 20% of his body. So the mayor and I is going to try to go visit him up in North Jersey.
And let's all pray for him. Let's all pray for them. Let's all
pray for the family of them. And we're going to have to go over to this fire. Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Andrew. To whom much is given, much is expected. And our next speaker is one of the most talented young brothers in the city that very few people know about. And so that's because his leadership is not loud and vocal and boisterous. His leadership is precise, measured, unassuming, detail-oriented, focused, take care of business, and loves his people. And so I was privileged to get turned on to Charles Davis, who is the chair of the board at the Henry J. Austin Center, and he's the operations manager for motor vehicle. So it's interesting to me, the brother who is juggling so many professional and personal things to make our city a better place and our state a better place to work, to live, to play, and to do business. So Charles, talk to us a little bit about what you see. You see folks coming to motor vehicle every day. You see folks coming to Henry J. Austin with something every day. What's your perspective on the future of the city and your thoughts on how we can make not only us better, but make Trenton a better place?
Well, first, thank you for that very gracious introduction, John, and the organizers of this particular forum. It is a very important issue. I am a native of Trenton. I was born and raised in the city, and I still currently reside in the city. I actually live in the South Ward. So this is very important. And I certainly don't enjoy standing between you all and lunch. So I will be brief because I do think that the future of our city is largely hinged upon action, and not so much talk, but people actually doing things to move it. And I'm going to actually follow up on something that Pastor Taylor had mentioned in his remarks, and something that I believe her name is Kelly Ingram just mentioned at the closing of her remarks, and something that Andrew Bobbitt, who I've known a very long time, also mentioned. I'm going to actually probably try to put them all together and say that I think that the future of the city, particularly if it is going to be on a trajectory that's upward and onward, is going to be rooted in sincere involvement. And I'm using those words intentionally, because I think sometimes we get too hung up on who's the leader, and or who's sitting at the head of the table. And we need to maybe change the table from being rectangular to being oval, and understand that once we recognize, understand, accept, and appreciate that everyone where they are have value and can contribute, we can really start to move the pendulum on this issue, on all of these things, right? Because there's a number of things, whether it's education, healthcare and human services, investment in our infrastructure, economic development, or public safety. These are not singular leader issues. It's a multi-pronged approach that's going to take the sincere investment of everyone to address and move forward. So as Pastor Taylor mentions about the investment in people, and that we need to invest in people, right? And Andrew talks to getting in the street and kind of pressing the flesh and not going the highways and byways around it. And then Kelly mentions about being hopeful. You know, that's one of my concerns is when you go through certain sections of our city and you see the hopelessness in some folks' face. It's a challenge. So I will sum all that up to say that the future of this city, particularly if it's going to be in a positive way, it's going to take the active and sincere engagement of an assortment of people. Not just the mayor's office, not just the council, not just various groups that we may be familiar with, but John and Jane Doe, that's in their local civic association, right? The teacher that sees that student every day, right? The pastor that shepherds that congregation every week, who may not necessarily, to your point, John, be in the forefront and in the newspapers and always grabbing at the mic, but they're actually on the front lines. So I think the future of the city, I'm optimistic about it. Whether, I see whether it's in my capacity at the New Jersey Motor Vehicle Commission or at Henry J. Austin Health Center, the folks that need our help, quite frankly, they don't care where it comes from, who it comes from. They just need the help, right? So I'm looking forward to seeing in particularly our next iteration of leaders, and I'm using that word generously, that they are sincere and that we get beyond what you mentioned earlier, or someone mentioned regard, I think it was Andrew, about the pettiness, and that we can actually move it in a good direction. So I'm not going to belabor, because I think this has been an extended session, and I think that the main points have been hit and repeated. But I do want to add to that in all things, we are sincere in it. And I think if we are truly sincere in our hearts about what we're working on, God will bless it.
Thank you, Charles. Pearlie, can you put your voice on mute, please? Thank you. Sam, we're about to wrap up. As always, these conversations and this information has been very helpful. Do you want to take the last word?
Yeah, John, thank you so much. And thank you to everyone that's been on the call, everyone that's been with us for the last 5 years, those who have joined in year by year, month by month. This work is critically important. Our communities will not move forward until we learn how to unite and fight together. And we're not fighting a person or a people, but we're fighting an ideology. We're fighting an ideology that says that everyone does not deserve equal treatment and equal opportunity. And we're fighting an ideology that says that there's a group of people that are better than another group of people, and that they've been taking advantage of that for over 400 years. And have amassed wealth that trumps any wealth that we have right now because we've been kept out of the loop in the opportunities to amass wealth ourselves, which impacts all of our health issues, our environmental issues, the violence that happens in our communities. It impacts how our children get educated. You know, right here in New Jersey, right here in Mercer County, the life expectancy of a person in the city of Trenton is 64 years of age. The life expectancy of someone in Princeton is 78. There's no way that somebody should be 14 years better just because of where they live. And so we have a lot of work to do, and we can only get that work done if we do it together. You know, Teska and I moved to this city 18 years ago because we wanted to make an impact and wanted to have an impact on the people that look like us and our relatives that are here. And I believe that we've been doing that. And I believe that everybody on this call wants that. But we've got to figure out a path together, forward together. And so I'm excited about the prospects of the future. I'm excited about what we're doing here in this particular group. But heck, I'm just excited to be a Black man living in Mercer County with a group of my friends that are willing to work together. So you guys, let's keep doing the work together. We'll fight together. We'll work together, and we'll have victory together when we do it together. Thank you, JB. Thank you to everyone that's been on the call. Dr. Campbell, I just want to say thank you to you because you haven't missed a call in the 5 years that we've been going. It's always great to see one of our elders on this call that is always there. And even though you have a huge voice, you never ask to say a word. So I want to say thank you to you and applaud you for just being here and being the matriarch that you've been for us in this city. Thank you, everyone. Have an incredible weekend.
Thank you, Diane. We love you, girl. In the words of the old Negro spiritual, y'all be good now, huh?
God bless everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Good night. Good afternoon.